This is a little section towards the end of the book, and it's actually not my main character, Casey. It's Ted Kim, who is, without question, my favorite male character. A lot of Korean men have come up to me and said, I like Ted, but he's kind of an asshole. And I'm like, I think he's awesome. Like, whenever I would write about Ted, I would just get really excited, because I thought he was really sexy. And so this is about Ted Kim, and Ted Kim is an investment banker. He leaves his wife Ella, who's a nice Korean girl, a doctor's daughter, and he leaves her for Delia, who is, well, a beautiful young white woman, but she's also the office slut. And this is a shock to everybody, and it's an incredible shock to his mother, because she loves Ella. So when Ted's father passes away, Ted actually has to go back to Alaska to deal with the funeral, and he brings his now fiancée Delia with him. And this is the scene. And I'm going to read maybe a page and a half, so it'll be really fast. You left Ella for that girl? For that girl? You must be crazy. Ted's mother muttered to herself in Korean, What did Ella do to you? Nothing, Ted said. We just don't love each other anymore. No, Teddy, I know Ella loves you. She's a good girl, and she doesn't stop loving you just because you did something bad. Nobody just stops loving. That's the stupidest thing to say. No, Mom, she doesn't love me anymore. She wants a divorce. She wants a divorce because she knows you don't want to be married. If you wanted to be married, she would work things out. Well, I don't want to be married to her anymore. All right? Ted clenched his fists. And what will you do when you don't love this one anymore? Will you get rid of her like bad fish and find someone else? Why do people in America care so much about sex? Love isn't sex. Ted had never heard his mother ever say the word sex. She had to say the word in English. He put his arms behind his back the way he did before making a presentation. He towered over Mrs. Kim, who was not even 5 feet tall. Ted thought to say something. Then he refrained. He would let her say these things to him because he could not explain what had happened with Delia. What he felt for her was stronger than what he had ever felt for another person. Delia was like home to him. Ella was the house on the hill he had dreamed of buying. But he could never relax in her presence. Also, he'd come to see her niceness and mildness as ultimately unattractive. Which was very helpful is, now I believe, you might want to think about this, now I believe that people are actually rooting for you. So if you actually sit thinking they're sitting in judgment of you, you will actually die. But if you actually think, oh no, these people are rooting for you, all of a sudden it becomes possible to talk. So that's what I learned in my 3 years of public speaking. Maybe I can save you some time and money. Just wanted to share that. And don't forget Cousin Bet by Malbec.
Liking and reading. So I guess we probably become the writers we read.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I think we are probably nearing the end of the discussion. And
comment. One of the arguments that I'm making in this book is that I believe that immigration freezes time. So our family left in 1976. So in many ways, my father and my mother are sort of stuck in the Korea of 1976, which could sort of in a way explain what you're saying. The reason why Korean Americans are having greater friction is because the other generation is actually frozen. Whereas actually when I go to Korea, and actually I write for the Joseon Ilbo right now as a guest columnist, when I'm in Korea, I can't get over how like cool and hip everybody is. And look at my parents and their friends, I'm like, you guys are really... And I think it's because they're stuck in 1950, 60, 70, 80, and they kind of think that's what Korea is. And I'm like, no, 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 no. When you go to Korea, people there are really with it, and including fathers. Because overall, I think for developed countries, and I know that FTSE just recently made South Korea a developed nation, is that developed countries apparently are now experiencing where fathers are now enjoying more fatherhood. So I think the way men are seeing fatherhood is a very different idea than it was back 20, 30, 40 years ago. And I think that might kind of explain what you're talking about. I'm not quite sure. So, but I liked your comment. And in the very, very end, the young man actually raises his hand, and this is very early when the book came out, and I was so surprised he had read it. He said, "Can you please tell me in chapter 1, when the father hits the daughter and they have this big fight, did this happen to you?" My father gets up, and he turns around to the young man, and he said, "That's not me." Because in New York he was very popular, but now that we moved to Tokyo, he's got a new school, he's dealing with it. And I've had to explain to him ad infinitum that I didn't have friends until I was in the middle of high school. Because I really didn't know how to talk to people. It was so difficult for me to talk to people. And people always ask me, "How have you read so many books?" I think, well, if you don't have any friends, you get a lot of reading time. And so I wanted to be a book, but I think that in my head I always had very offbeat thoughts, which I couldn't express, and I really didn't make any sense probably to my peer group, and I certainly didn't make any sense to all the pretty girls in the class who I wanted to be friends with. I really, this is going to sound so embarrassing, but I wanted to be popular, I wanted to be pretty, I really wanted to fit in, and I just couldn't figure out a way in. So, but I think it's, you know, if this is who you are, it's who you are. What are you going to do? So thank you.